Hello, everyone. How are you all doing?
Hey, good. How you doing?
Hi, Alex. All good. Hi, Jabulani.
Hey,
Thank you both.
Preetesh, what's up?
All good. Thanks for joining us. Hey, and also thanks to everyone from across Africa and Middle East who are joining us for. Look, I'm looking forward to this chat. I think it's going to be a really, really important one in terms of brave and banned ads. Just a little bit of an ad break, obviously, just before we start, and that's that Loeries entries are still open. They close for the final time, and this is it. Final deadline. No other deadlines after this on the 30th of June. So if anyone's watching and you want to get your entries in, just remember 30th of June is the date. Get it in by 11 p.m. Other important thing is thank you to everyone joining us on Zoom, but we also have an amazing group of people joining us on Facebook. Just a reminder once again to everyone on Facebook, you can see us, we can't see you, and we can't get your questions. So I have Prudence and Clocky at the Loeries offices who are assisting us with that. So please, if you are joining us on Facebook Live, feel free to still post comments, questions, any of that stuff, and the team will pass it on to me, and then we'll start the discussion from there. Just want to say hello, just to have a look at who's joining us, and just say hello to a few people. Ashik, I can't say all your names, but Ashik Isaacs, Dylan Kruger, Jabulani Sabir, who we know really, really well. Lelo. See, that's when you know somebody's famous, when they go by one name itself. And then Rian van Beek, just Toko Lamini. Thank you to all of you for joining us, and to everyone else who's on this call as well. Really looking forward to our chat. So for those of you who don't know, our guest today, Jabulani Sigege, who's the Executive Creative Director at Wunderman Thompson, and Alex Goldberg, who's the Creative Director at Ogilvy Cape Town. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us, and thanks for being part of the Loeries Creative Hour.
Cool. Thanks for having us, Preetesh.
Awesome. Look, I want to jump straight into this, and just to go in terms of topic, and I'll tell you why this topic came about as well. Is it always boggles my mind when you look at some ads are just blatantly somehow went through a process and should absolutely not have gone out and reached consumers in the end of the day. But sometimes I look at ads, even for me, I look at some amazing ads, amazing piece of work, and it takes one person sitting in some random corner to write one little letter that goes down this rabbit hole, and this amazing piece of work gets banned on some sort of technicality. And it upsets me. It upsets me to see people who've put so much effort into this, and then it gets banned. But I want to check. So am I being too sensitive? Should a lot of these ads we're looking at absolutely deserve to be banned? Or am I right in my thinking that sometimes people are just too sensitive about it? And Jabulani, maybe starting with you.
Yeah, sure. So I think I think with as with anything, there's like a duality to it. Like there's kind of two sides to the coin. There are ads where it might seem as if people come across as being too sensitive. And as you said, it takes one person out in Somerset West or Mossel Bay to write in, and then suddenly this ad, because of their sensibilities, and it just happens that the ASA potentially agrees with them, or whichever the body is, and it flies out the window. But I think on the flip side is that you can't just kind of randomly ignore what are the things that kind of are triggers for people and the things that people are sensitive to. So you've got to take that into account, because kind of like what is one person's joke is another person's obscenity, and that is actually a fact. So we do need to take into consideration kind of what people are thinking, the moods, the sentiment at the time, because as we know, as we've seen, whether it's literature, whether it's art, whether it's movies, whether it's comedy, things that were acceptable, let's say even 10 years ago, will not fly today. Never mind 20 years back, 30 years back, 50 years back. So I think there's a very much a balancing act that has to be done as we move along. There's a kind of a spectrum, and as you move along that continuum, you've always got to be taking into consideration what is the zeitgeist and what is the mood, and where has society kind of moved to. So that's my take on that.
Amazing. And Alex, from your side, I mean, we're looking at all these ads being banned, and sometimes, I mean, you look at it and it takes, as we were chatting with Jabulani, just a single person writing in to go down this process for it to be banned. What are your thoughts in terms of, do they deserve to be banned, or you agree with Jabulani in terms of, as time moves, we also need to understand that the way we interpreted the ads change as well?
Yeah, listen, Jabulani is 100% correct. Like, there's always two sides to it. I think a lot of people, like, some ads do deserve to get banned because they kind of play into a narrative that is not progressive and inclusive. Things have changed. I think also some people, I mean, listen, you always get good ads and you get bad ads, same as everything. And you get some people who will touch on a topic just for the sake of just getting a response. But I think a big problem is when people kind of drink their own Kool-Aid and they buy into their own hype and they don't allow everyone in the room to have a voice to go, you know what, actually, that isn't cool. Or like, that makes me feel uncomfortable. And I think our gut reaction as any kind of creator is you put something out there. When someone has a response, you always kind of go, screw them, what do they know? But it's having that ability to step back and actually go like, okay, is there something in what they're saying that is valid? And am I kind of perceiving their comments based on my history and what's brought me here? And sometimes you just do get a Karen from Sedgefield who's a schnauzer lover who sends in a complaint on something, and it happens. It's terrifying being on the other side of it, because I think we're kind of looking into like cancel culture. Some things deserve to be cancelled. Some things are just, it's just almost mob mentality, and one bad thing happens and it starts rippling through, and that can kind of cripple the bravery and the courage of an agency and a client, and it's super dangerous.
Have either of you ever had an ad that got banned or was wrapped over the knuckles at some point? I see Alex smiling over there, and Jabulani's smiling as well.
Yeah, quite a few. I think recently we've had to deal with more complaints just in this, and it can be anything. I think also last year was tough on everyone, so there was just a lot of angst and people directing their hatred towards ads and brands because we actually respond. And like most of them are completely unfounded, and you're like, okay, cool. And then sometimes one is just people are sensitive, and I think the industry is sensitive to the notion of it. And I think some clients would rather play it safe and maybe pull something, even though we could be in the right. But it might kind of spark a series of things that could go a bit kind of tresemme, I guess.
But I mean, Alex, in your case, which ad was, so just do you have an example where you can go, here's something I worked on, absolutely love it, and got a ton of complaints, or even just that one complaint that came in that just soured the whole process?
Yeah, I think like, so when we were at Fox, our kind of goal there was always to kind of make work that broke the bear, and this stuff. And we launched a campaign or a brand called We the Brave, which was an initiative from the Elton John AIDS Foundation that kind of promoted safe sex amongst MSM, who are the men who have sex with men. So we did the first ad in South Africa that had a gay kiss on TV. And we flighted at peak time, carte blanche, when everyone's already irate and dreading Mondays. And the heat that came in, the complaints from people who were so outraged by this kind of display of something that went against the curve. It was massive. We had so many complaints, and it actually, for us, it spurred us on. And then we made a counter ad saying, like, these are all the people that complained, and this is why we exist. Which is, that was really cool.
At least that's
amazing.
Sorry, yeah.
Getting like a lot of, when you receive those letters, I don't know if you guys have gone onto the ASA website, and just occasionally you have to go and you see the process that people have to go through in order to like file a complaint, and then you see the lodgings afterwards, and it's just like, I think on the 22nd of this month, there were some angry people. Yeah, we've had some stuff, and also like I think when it comes to working on a car brand, a big brand, you generate a lot of heat sometimes, and it's like things that people are always sensitive towards, like the use of kids, if a car looks like it's speeding, no, it's not, and you have the indicators, everything. So we tend to get quite a few complaints. Yeah, and we might have missed the boat on a radio spot that's might have played into a stereotype that spoke to that was very focused towards men, and that was a learning curve for us, because even though the target market was men, you can't play like that anymore. You can't be like that direct to a certain audience, like especially a gendered audience.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree. And Jabulani, on your side, I mean, you're also smiling when I asked the ads that were banned or you got wrapped over your knuckles by the ARB or whoever else it may be. So give us some examples of some of the ads that you've had troubles with.
I think if I were to use my most memorable one, was an ad for telecoms. And it was an ad in his class, and it was playing, I think a couple of years back, like probably 5 or 6 years back. And it was an ad which basically it was going, if you've got, kind of like you've got this kind of internet package, because people are kind of like, there were kind of all these chats, and even like a Facebook group called Amagruchas Eastern Cape, as in Witches of the Eastern Cape. And it was on Facebook, and it was a very interesting thing to see, where it was like, oh, what? It might have been like satire or a joke, but it's like, are witches moving online now? Are they moving into the digital space with their witchcraft? So the ad actually played on that kind of scenario, and very much like these kind of like the old school radio plays you'd find on Mhlobo Wenene, which used to be Radio Xhosa. We created like the scenario where kind of like you had these witches, at there's a coven, and just playing into kind of cultural insights, where there's this forest in the Eastern Cape called Iguatana, where allegedly, witches convene, between the hours of 2 and 3 to kind of plan the next thing. And had that ad, it ran on Mhlobo Wenene, but obviously, kind of like to open it to a broader audience, we put subtitles on it and kind of like had it online. And then there was a guy called, I think his name was either Dave or Josh, but he was from, I think it was from Mossel Bay. And Dave or Josh was the head of he was the leader of the Pagan Rights Alliance. So Dave or Josh wrote into the ASA and complained about the ad, saying that it was offensive to witches. So then it went to the ASA, and then I think even before it got kind of deliberated, the client got nervous and pulled it. But after it ran on Mhlobo Wenene, amongst kind of like native Xhosa speakers, but nobody had a complaint there. And it's like a spot like I always have my kind of like to play. I've even got it here. But it's actually like it's funny that I think about it, that it took one guy in Mossel Bay as head of the Pagan Rights Alliance. I don't know if he was a member of the Witches' Coven that would congregate in the Eastern Cape. Maybe he was speaking on their behalf. I wouldn't know. So, but that was my most memorable kind of experience of getting an ad pulled.
You say you have it, you have to play it. I think you have to follow it up with us singing it.
Let's cool. Let me do that.
Yeah, because as you get that ready, I go, it's really strange, because you never know who you're going to offend, because the whole thing is no one's, look, sometimes we do go into it and we know we're going to offend certain people with this, but it's a very calculated decision where you go, in that offense, you're going to raise a specific topic, or you're going to be able to advance the brand a bit forward. But sometimes you just have no idea. It just comes out of you, out of just the side, where you go like, I wasn't expecting that person to come. That sounds like this example. Yeah. So do you have it to play?
Yeah, I've got it. Let me see if I can share the screen. Cool. Right, the sound and everything. Okay, cool. Here we go.
Ndibulisile magqwirha nakuni bathakathi. Enkosi ngokuza namhlanje. Ndiyayazi kuba nzima ngamanye amaxesha ukuza kwezi ntlanganiso zethu apha eGwadana. Kakade uphi uManqonde? Uwe ekhethini lowo. Hayi asinawuthini ke, masiqhubekeke. Makhe siqale ngokuqhwabela uJambase. Nguye igqwirha elibalaseleyo kule inyanga. Uphethe wadlula kummiselo wenani labantu ekufuneka benze izithunzela. Ezikhuthazayo zizokuba sine-M-Web internet ngoku. Loo nto bathakathi ithetha ukuba ngoku siyakwazi ukuthumela isimnyama ngetweet okanye umntu simthumele uvutha kwi-inbox yakhe kuFacebook. Asishiyeki kaloku bantu bobumnyama, sikude emaqabeni.
Fumana i-M-Web internet ekhawulezayo nefikelelekayo elungele iimfuno zakho usukela kuma-2,000 ngenyanga. M-Web, xhumana unakho, kukho imiqathango nemiyalelo.
That's brilliant. The scariest thing is
amazing.
200 rands a month, because I don't know the last time I saw M-Web offer anything at 200 rands a month. but that was brilliant, and the content is totally different from. Look, the realities in the world we live in. We do have people in covens and protected and practicing. Sorry, there's me losing my words there. Practicing witchcraft in a particular context as well, and there's lots of different dynamics in it. But this is obviously totally far removed from the consumer who actually ended up calling in for it. It's a totally different kind of dynamic, isn't it?
Jeez.
Yeah. So I mean, that was my experience, and it was like interesting to go somebody, especially because you also go, cool, the people, because as I said, we wanted to open it up to a wider audience, that kind of thing. But the fact that, kind of the one person could trigger a chain of events, to get an ad pulled. So, I did find it kind of like, I did find that interesting and perplexing at the time, but, as time has gone on, I've been in the industry, it's like, you got to realize that there are some kind of wild card scenarios you can never predict. But it doesn't mean that we should stop being brave and stop pushing for the work that kind of stands out and breaks through.
Mm-hmm. And just to say for everyone who's tuning in, before we start getting curses through tweets, as you mentioned in the ad, or even through Facebook, just remember we're going to be watching some of the ads, and it's an educational platform, and it's a great opportunity for us to explore and have a look at some of these ads as well. So before we start sitting, I'm sure no one on this is going to send a ARB complaint that the Loeries Creative Hour is playing all of these ads. But just so you know, for an educational purpose, disclaimers have to be put out there as well. I mean, Alex, on your side, I know you've got some ads you want to show us as well. Is there anything you'd like to show us and tell us a little bit of context in terms of what happened there?
I mean, first of all, I think you never know when life will throw you witches. I would love to have seen that email coming through going, guys, we've angered the witches. I kind of wanted to look at, I mean, we've had quite a few interesting ones. Nothing quite like that. We did have an ad where with Volkswagen, we had easy drivers, and I'll find it now. It wasn't in the deck, but when the kind of all the hair debacle kicked off, and that's basically any ad that had any form of hair was suddenly under fire. And you can just see that as soon as that one tweet comes in, it can make people quite nervous. But the thing is, and I'll show you this ad, which I love it because in this one it's quite old but it's an ad from the States that I absolutely adore because of their response. So if you can.
While you're getting that in, comments from Jabulani Sabia as you load that in says, ha ha ha, as I prepare for an M-Web internal review, laugh out loud. Love the work, Jabulani. Awesome execution and insight. DM me and how you sold that in. Oh man. That was brilliant actually as well. Sorry, Alex, back to you.
Okay, can you see that? It's Raven Band.
Oh yes.
Cool. So I mean, I'll just kind of first, I think before we go into it, I wanted to kind of look at the thing that what we do is actually really insane. It's like we make stuff up in our heads and then we expect clients to spend millions on the things we made up. in the hope it'll tackle their business challenges. So like bravery is these days is like a two-way street, and like we're really in this shit together, you know. Because like when those emails start coming, you know, you need to have a client that say like, oh, listen, we were on this, this is our vibe together, don't worry, you know. And you know, it does happen when like your ad is bad and you feel bad, people want to come try and see you, you kind of want to get out of the way, it's shit. So then it's like you get that canceling feeling. And what Jabulani was talking was like, you know, in that sense of, you know, do you get back on the horse, or do you just kind of like try and just ease into things and just circle in this body of mediocrity, you know? So like, this is the ad I wanted to talk about, and it was just, it feels like it should be quite simple. I mean, with Volkswagen, we always do like dealership ads and car ads and stuff, and this is something in the States, and it has the voice of the guy who played Dexter, so John C. Hall. This was the ad.
Oh, Alex, we don't have any volume. At least I don't have volume on my side. So you just may need to share volume on.
Maybe, okay, let's just try this again.
Right now at the Dodge 10 event, when you buy a new Charger, Journey, or Grand Caravan, Dodge will give you 60 days to decide if you want to keep it. They'll even cover your payments. This event could not be more amazing. Oh, wait, there's a monkey. I stand corrected.
Yeah, so that ad seems quite harmless, but Peter, like the animal rights activist, came at them hard. And so the kind of the CEO of Dodge said like, okay, cool, listen, we hear you. You will never see a monkey in our ad ever again. And then they released this.
Right now at the Dodge 10 event, when you buy a new Charger, Journey, or Grand Caravan, Dodge will give you 60 days to decide if you want to keep it. They'll even cover your payments. This event could not be more amazing. Oh, wait, there's an invisible monkey. Unbelievable.
I just love it, because they kind of, I mean, yeah, it's the cheek of that. And I think like now they would probably be dragged everywhere, because I mean that was like 10 years ago. But I just love the response to that. I thought it was just really, really fun and super catchy.
You know, more than just the response for sake of response. I think what's really nice is that continuation of creativity, where creativity is winning when they like in an example like Dodge like this, they ensure that creativity wins, and ultimately the brand continues to win from whatever controversy comes out of this as well. And I think that's what's amazing, when you're able to take something, and I think we don't do that across, and I'm looking at across Africa and the Middle East, and we look at our content. Whenever we have an issue, whether it's in South Africa, or whether it's in Nigeria or Kenya, wherever else it may be, if an ad gets banned by an authority, it ends there. No one then goes, how can we take this and change some of the creative to tackle the issue, but still ensure it's out there so that we're able to, you know, play up some of the issues in different ways. Am I right? Have you ever seen that happen? Jabulani, have you seen that happen? Yep.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head where kind of like whether it like, you know, whether it's the agency or client be kind of being able to work in collaboration to be agile enough to respond to that scenario. And I can't actually think of one off the top of my head. Alex, do you have any thoughts around that?
Sorry, you just repeat that. Sorry, I just broke.
Oh no, saying I can't think of off the top of my head of like any scenarios where, like that Dodge one, where, you know, if kind of somebody had complained, like what Preetesh was saying, where there's been anybody, I guess in the South African context, who was able to respond in that same manner, where I think they were agile enough to respond to something where if it was about to get pulled, they quickly tweaked it.
Yeah, not off the top of my head. I think a lot of the time,
yeah. Sorry, I was going to say, because I don't know if it's you know, because I don't know if it's the environment in where sometimes I think the client is just like, let's not allow it to become bigger than it is, and they're just happy to pull the plug. Because I sometimes think that is the case where it's like there's a fuss being made. Let's not let this thing kind of become bigger than it necessarily needs to be. And I think sometimes that is the thing where it's like, let's rather lay down than kind of push back.
But
once that first one comes, and then everyone kind of gets nervous because of the fact that, like, especially now with social media, like, things can get out of control very quickly. And that's also the problem now, is that, like, you used to be in the sense where you create an ad, put it out there, and that was generally the end of the conversation. There wasn't this platform for people to suddenly become like irate or to kind of voice their the disapproval. And that's also like the hardest thing for community management these days, is that if you aren't watching a tweet at midnight, by the time you wake up, and then you check it the next day, things have really got out of hand.
But I look at this and go, we're speaking about bravery today, and that's what we want to do. We want to. It's not just us having a talk shop. It's really about, like, let's look at it and let's look at what else we can do. But I mean, there's an opportunity here. I see there's an opportunity for the next time you have a challenge, or somebody here has a challenge, to be able to say, okay, we've been, I don't know, the ARB has banned us, so whoever it is, and this is the specific points in which this ad has been banned. Let's tweak it. And let's put it out there now, addressing the issues that they have, and let's see if we can do it in a creative way. And I think that could be really, really nice from a creativity perspective. It could be great for the brand. And I think the consumers at the end of the day are really going to be the winners, because they're going to be treated to something that's really nice. I mean, all of us know the examples of, a few years ago on the billboards where it was BMW versus Mercedes, and they kept going back with one snappy comment after the other, and then Audi chipped in at the end. In the end, the consumers were really the winners, because they were the ones who were really enjoying it. And there might be an opportunity for us to do that. Jabulani, what do you think?
No, I definitely think so, where that kind of, when you have that kind of response, it will allow you to, because you're thinking on your feet, and what you're doing is you're adapting to the scenario as it goes along. And we've seen it before with an example, not in the case of somebody complaining about an ad and then it being banned, but I think it is in the case of the brands. It was a fast food brand and an insurance brand. I'm not going to name them, but then they had like a back and forth. They had a back and forth where the insurance brand released an ad first, then the fast food brand responded, and then the insurance brand responded again. So I think that kind of thinking and a quick-witted kind of like that agility, we definitely can apply it, because we are able to think about like that. And I'm sure in a room, when that complaint comes in, and I'm sure, Alex, when those complaints came in, like for some of the ads you kind of worked on, I'm sure you guys had solutions to how something could be fixed. And I think it's actually just going, because I think it's once you've got the trust of the client, at least you're in a good space with them, I think they will be willing to listen to that. And instead of even kind of as us, the kind of the creators, as the brand custodians, as the agencies, we shouldn't go, okay, cool, we won't make a fuss. We'll go along with what we say. You go, you know what, we've got to solve, as you said, Preetesh, that one section of that ad that is problematic. In that room, in the agency, somebody will always have a solution of how it can be quickly fixed so that the thing can still go out and potentially even make it better than it was before. So I think that's something that we have got to take on board and start looking at, because it will kind of challenge our creativity, as it is every day, but it'll start doing it in a different way. And what it'll do is also, it'll allow the clients to realize that when we, as the kind of from the agency side, have made these pieces of work, we didn't do so in a vacuum. We did so with the best intentions, and we're willing to make them work, even if that one person, wherever they are, has an issue with it.
I love what you're saying about not making it in a vacuum, because it is a collaboration between the brands and the agency in order to get this work out itself. But Alex, in a safe space as well, do you think a lot of brands out there are brave enough to go down this route, or as soon as there's a little bit of concern from any consumer out there, they immediately go, let's sweep this under the carpet and let's move on to the next thing?
I think they are, definitely are. I think I think one main thing is that like everyone needs to understand that like when you make a safe ad, like it costs you, you know. First of all, like you get ignored. You know, no one wants to. No, like it just kind of goes like under the carpet. No one really listens. No one observes it. Nothing. You spend all that money, and I think when you present a safe ad, because you're kind of you're scared to kind of not really push it yourself, chances are that one will be bought. It'll probably be the one that goes through research. That's the worst thing you could ever do, because now you're handcuffed to that ugly thing for months or a year. You end up putting more energy into it to try and make it better. Like you become despondent, you don't make a nice piece of work. People like get sad and there'll be tears and it just, you eventually flight it and nothing happens. You don't win anything. You don't make anything that the agency that doesn't make the agency look good. Then you don't start attracting the creatives you want, the talent you want, the clients you want. It's just a really bad cycle. So I think a lot of marketers are starting to understand that you need to cut through. There's just like this level of mediocrity that is just swimming there. And to put a piece of work out and start searching online, which we always do, you know, because we want to see how awesome we are. And then you see nothing. Like, I'd rather get banned than ignored. It's like, and we're not here to be safe. Like, I don't think any creative or anyone wants to come out to create ideas that just are going to be like a bit meh, you know. You want people talking about it. And it's the same with clients. But like I think Jabulani touched on is that that trust is so important. Like it's not an us first them, and we use the word brave to try and trick them into buying stupid shit. It's like it has to like be on point. The insight needs to be good. You need to like bring us like a very diverse group of people to understand like, okay, is this on point? Are we executing in the best way? And then make sure we all align on it, because the client's got your back, and we're like, okay, this is what we're doing. When heat comes, then you can push back, and then you can have that platform in order to respond in the way that we would think would be really fun. When I kind of spoke about that We the Brave thing, I do have it here, I can show it to you. That we had a client that was like on board with this mission because, and it's weird because we kind of speak to the fact that like you'll get 1,000 people who go yay, and then one will say like no it, and you're like that person, you know. You can either go like sometimes they're just dicks, other times they might have something that's worth saying. I think for a very long time the minority never had their stories told or had their voices heard, and you can go, okay, well, like, okay, let's listen, you know, because that'll maybe give us a platform to make something else that's better. Because I don't think we have that ability now, or I guess if you want to say it, the luxury of just kind of putting something out there and just kind of ignoring the response.
Awesome. Jabulani, I know I know both of you have some ads you want to show us. Before we run out of time, Jabulani, I don't know if you want to share another one and tell us, let's spark a bit more conversation about something else.
Oh, no, that's a perfect segue, Preetesh, because just jumping off what Alex said, where it was the minority never had before, especially like with kind of like the advent of like social media and the internet, they never got their stories told before. I think in SA, the majority never had their stories being told before. And that's why I think with the examples that I managed to kind of find, I think it's very interesting. And, you know, kind of like I kind of like grouped it where it was inspired by, I think, Alex's response about like, you know, kind of like the good and everything else in advertising, where I just grouped it into the good, the bad, and the ugly, like into those kind of things where it's like the good is like the things, these are 3 ads, and I'll play them in sequence. They were all banned. They ended up being kind of pulled, but there's a common thread around them, which I found interesting, which I'll quickly kind of jump back into, is because I think these ads, and I want to see if anybody's going to pick up what is the common thread between the 3 of them, you know, and they got pulled, and I've got my interpretation of that, but it'll be interesting to hear from Alex and you, Preetesh, and anybody else. So let me quickly hop into it.
Okay, so exercise time for everyone. If you pick it up as the ads go, start putting it in the comments, please. Yeah.
Cool.
And I will promise I'll try and get through the questions as well. So apologies to everyone that we haven't started answering. I'll definitely try and see if we'll get some time to get some questions in.
A long, long time ago, when leather was still in fashion, a young man left his home to satisfy his hunger for adventure. His name was Big Jonan, prince of the Mutsamai tribe. A man with a spirit so untamable, he tamed the spirit of others. He was unstoppable. His hunger was too big. Nothing or no one could shake Jonana's confidence. He weathered heavy storms, but if you asked him, he'd say it was just a breeze. Big Jonana did many things, but the one thing he'll always be remembered for is discovering a foreign land.
Wala mang gamlang? So, ready? Wala? Let's go. Can I get him in there? Yeah, hente ngiyanyanya le ndawo yazi. Ngicela ukubiza you row. Euro.
And that is the legend of Big John.
Yazi, nami ngicela Big John ne.
No problem.
Sure.
You know what's wrong with South Africa? All you foreigners. You must all go back to where you came from. You Cameroonians, Congolese, Pakistanis, Somalis, Ghanaians, and Kenyans. And of course, you Nigerians. And you Europeans. Let's not forget all you Indians and Chinese. Even you Afrikaners. Back to Swaziland for you Swatis, Lesotho for you Sotos, Tswanas, Vendas, Zulus, everybody.
Real South Africans love diversity. That's why we have introduced 2 more items, new peri-crusted wings and delicious chinchado and chips.
So yeah, and I think for me with those three ads, what they actually had is that like the common thread they had is that they actually flipped the narrative in a situation that like kind of like with South Africans, they actually got people thinking and seeing our country and society and history in a new and different light. And I think sometimes, what being brave in the context of advertising is being actually potentially choosing ways to make people, it is making people look at things differently, but you got to get them to think differently first before they can behave differently. And often it's making them feel emotions that they haven't felt before, because that is what is going to move them. And it'll be something where they'll react to it, it'll be visceral, and it's not necessarily the case of when people go, bad publicity is better than no publicity. No, we've got a responsibility to make sure that we elicit the right kinds of reactions, the ones that will lead to a positive kind of outcome or behavior. And I think when I said I call that section the good, those are ads that should have never been, for me, been pulled, because they reflected society, especially South African society, its history in a different light. Coming back to what Alex said when he said, the minority, and I understand it, like he made his point on when he talks about the brave, when he said we are the brave, to that kind of segment of society. With South Africa, it was interesting that with the roles being flipped in these ads, it gave kind of it told the story of the previously voiceless.
Yeah, that's amazing. Sorry, you go?
No, carry on, please. Yeah.
I think the one thing that we always talk about is what creativity is, and for me, creativity is either a mirror to your world or a window to someone else's, and those things just do that so well. By I think if you really want people to kind of change perception and everything, those things do it so well, because they really do act as both those things. They give you the moment to reflect on your own situation, as well as looking at other stories and other groups. Those ads are all amazing. I mean, they're so well executed. They're just and that's what the best work is. It makes you kind of think, and I don't think they should be banned at all.
Yet it takes one complaint to come in from some random person or somewhere out there with some sensitivity in some area that can that got these ads banned. Well, or controversy, or got them banned in that case. Yeah.
And it's hectic. So if you look at, then just take the last one, for instance, the Chicken Licken with Big John, so Grant Souza directed that. I mean, that thing is it's just amazing. The craft that goes into it, just the writing, just the subtle touches of the map going around. It's just there's so many little nuances, and it's funny because it gets people to laugh at themselves a bit and go and that's the thing, is that sometimes people take things too seriously and not seeing it for what it is. And the amount of people and effort that goes into making that piece of work, and then the media you spend on it, it's there's a lot of things on the line. And then the one person that I'm offended. Why? Are you offended because you're sticking to an old narrative? And I think that's the difference, is the different audiences. There's the yesteryear and the people that are kind of moving into something that's more progressive. I just see a question, from Z. Zanele, what's up? In the world of the work, where's the line between creating a brave and cheeky work without offending? And I think that line is, and Jabulani just kind of spoke to it, it's just making sure that what you're doing is kind of just, that from the insight that that you have brought everyone in and listen to the right voices, and knowing that if you're provoking something, it's the right provocation.
How do we? Okay, as I said, I mean, the work that we had a look at. Jabulani, did you work on any of those three pieces?
Oh no, I wish I had, especially that last one. That last one, that SABC one. I mean, that for me is an iconic, and it's because I think what it is as well, because it taps into something where, and I think most of us have heard it from clients at some stage where they go, the target market is literal, and for me, that's just a euphemism of going, the target market or the consumer is not intelligent enough to decipher what you've presented in front of them, Alex. But actually, we actually shouldn't be doing our audience and our consumers a disservice, people like that, a disservice, because that thing of being literal, it means that everything gets watered down, gets dumbed down. But actually people follow stories. People know how stories work. They know how narratives work. And we've got to stop treating them like that. So I think that's why that ad, because I mean, that ad is probably, it's over probably 15 years old.
Yeah.
But it's still as relevant today. And you could take that actually, you could even apply to the States, to the USA, potentially. And because there's just one powerful insight. And I think what Bravework does, to what Alex said just now as well, too, Bravework takes people beyond where they currently are and have ever been. When you talk about it holds up a mirror or shows them how things could be. And it introduces people to a new world of paradigm. And I think that's where, where you're going to get the people who complain about it because they feel uncomfortable, because it's not their world, the world that they know.
So here comes the interesting thing. I mean, as you said, Jabulani, you didn't work in any of that. And Alex, I guess you didn't work on any of those work, did you? No? Okay, great. So, but we're all passionate about it. And we all look at it and we go, that's amazing stuff. So how do we protect, as an industry, great work? Because even if we haven't worked in it and you recognize that something's amazing and it's putting something valuable out there into the creative ecosystem and it's getting banned, we don't have a voice in that. How do we protect it? What can we do? And maybe it's an unfair question because I don't know the answer, but if you two have an insight, I'd be very happy to hear it. Jabulani?
Yeah, thanks for putting us on the spot, Preetesh.
That's why we're here, right?
But as you said, I think again, this will be like it's an opinion and it could be, but I think with something I think there was something that was raised once upon in terms of the SA, where it can't take just one person to complain about something and suddenly that piece of work gets pulled. But but it goes hand in hand with, I think, with something that Tsikhofatso said on, I think, in the Q&A, where the kind of canceling of ads or the cancel culture comes from the thing where, again, it's also something that Alex touched upon, where you need the right people in the room at the time when things are kind of being brainstormed and being put together, that kind of diverse and inclusive set of people, so that if there are any flags or any potentially kind of insensitive scenarios or things come up, they can get flagged in there. I think that's the first step to kind of prevent that. But once it's out there in the world, I think us as an industry, we've got to, it's hard to go because we need to rally around each other and each other's work. But it is, I think the thing is, like, how do you do that? Like, what is the platform? Because, because often a complaint will come in about something, then boom, like there's a flurry of like kind of activity and comments and opinions about it. So in terms of doing that, I don't know, because I'm really trying to think hard, Preetesh, of like how it is, but I know that the fact is that we do have to rally and kind of like support each other's work, because we know, again, what Alex said, we know what went into coming up with that thing, with that piece of work, because it wasn't a thing where somebody just thought of it by themselves and they went through it. They were kind of like, they were the law unto themselves with the approval process as well, because there were a number of people in that kind of like in that setting and at different stages. So I think it is with us, because we're on the other side of the fence, we do have to be not forgiving, but kind of be more empathetic in terms of like, because we know how people got to that kind of thing. So it is of, I guess, we got to support each other. And as I said, I don't know, it's not going to be a case of every agency writing into the ASA when like an ad gets pulled, because we don't know what other dynamics there are. But we do have to find, you're right, we do have to find a way to rally around each other. And as I'm speaking here, I'm not sure what that is. I will DM you if I think of it.
Yeah, let's try. I'd love to figure it out. Alex, I want to try and do two things. I mean, we've got 6 minutes. I feel this should have been 2 hours, but we've got 6 minutes. I'd love to see one of your ads that you still have as well. And maybe if you've got some thoughts in terms of how do we support each other? Because someday, I mean, we're going to be in a situation where, look, I remember back in the ASA days, I had to be standing in front of the ASA defending the ads that I made from some random complaints when you get down to the tribunal level and all of this. But I mean, again, I think as an industry, we need to protect it as well. But Alex, do you have any thoughts on how we protect our work while you line up some work for us to have a look at?
Yeah, I think the supports, that is a big thing. I think like it's really cool when, like, I guess the award season comes around and you see agencies doing well, especially like and then that's when you start seeing the camaraderie between the agencies and go like, oh shit, that is amazing, well done, that piece of work did so well. And I would love to see that just carry on going, because I think there's this notion that sometimes if you pick up someone else's work, it makes yours look inferior. There's this strange kind of tall poppy syndrome, and I think when it comes to work that, and there's obviously always gonna be rival brands and sensitivities around that, but I definitely think that, like, if an ad is starting to get pulled, and we all feel that it's a good thing, that there must be a voice that should be part of that. Like, I think in the ASA, it just feels like a complaint goes out, and then these things happen on the side, and then you get a mail and goes, yeah, it has to get pulled because it offended someone. But there's no one part of the ad industry, I guess more closely related to us, that is part of that fight. And I think going back to this kind of the whole mantra of Loeries this year is fight the good fight. That fight has to be fought on so many different fronts. It's like about getting the right brief, pushing it back if it's not right. Fighting for the work that you want to make, and then once you do make it, fighting for it to stay on. And I think that everyone is somewhere because they left somewhere else. So like people move in the industry so much. Clients move, creatives move, agencies change, everything. So it's not like kind of one versus the other. We all kind of the same thing, and I think we create an ethos or that it's kind of unifying throughout, like almost like on our front, that we kind of support each other and defend the work that we believe is right. I think that's going to be a good way for us to move. Because it sucks, because like when you're going in that thing, and I think a lot of times people just want to keep their heads down because they can see the mob moving towards a brand. You're like, oh shit, have we got people with hair in our ads? Okay, let's just not say anything because they could come for us. I think it's hard. I'm going to show you the ad that we kind of pissed off a bunch of homophobes, and proudly. And what I loved about this campaign is that, like, it kind of made me horribly step outside of our comfort zone. I think at Fox at that point we were like, there's absolutely no way in hell we could either win this pitch or even create this work if the clients looked at us and said, you don't understand me. And that's the thing across every piece of work, like Black audiences, gay, lesbian, everything. If at any point you don't do the work to make sure that you understand and see the different views inside the plights and the stories within those worlds, you're dead in the water. And that's about having the right people. It's making like a super inclusive, diverse teams, and giving them the freedom to voice their thing. It's like those things that shouldn't be hierarchical. It shouldn't, like, if there's a fear-based mentality inside the environment, then you're never going to get those really cool insights and a voice of reason from someone that you probably just think that they're not at the level to give it yet. Let me share this. Can you?
We don't see that. There we go. It's time to share.
Okay, so this whole insight just came from the fact that, like, with this audience, to come out and to do these things takes bravery that none of us can really understand, unless you're in that situation. And what we're trying to do is just get people to start just being safer, and things like using condoms and like just practicing safe sex and going like, and taking that aspect of bravery and showing that if you're brave enough to do one thing, you're certainly brave enough to do another. that the lock up at the end. Okay, so can you see this? Can you see this now? This YouTube.
Yes.
Okay, so we fly to that carte blanche. Naturally, there would have been a response.
See, awesome. That was a response to some of the some of the complaints that actually came through. But was that ad banned? It wasn't banned, right? Probably had tons of complaints, but there's no logical way that got banned in any way, right?
No, but there was, I mean, I think there were enough complaints for them to have quite a lengthy investigation into it. I mean,
Yeah.
usually now it's like, okay, one person complains and then it goes. There's like a lot. And I also think maybe it's also a conversation that the ad industry has to have with the kind of the governing body just around the narrative of things. Because I think, like, I don't know if that's happening.
Hello, everyone. James here from Lakelet. I just want to wish you all a great day. And
that is not supposed to happen. Yeah, I actually think that maybe that's a discussion that needs to be had between the I think representatives of kind of Loeries Council, I guess, and the governing bodies to kind of make sure that we're all on the right narrative.
We're working on it. The calls are happening. John, we are out of time. Thanks to, I feel like there's so much more. How many ads did we miss out on from the both of you? I think there's a lot more like sitting there, and we maybe need to do a part 2 of this, but just so that everyone else can get back to work. And I'm sure both of you are probably sitting there going, we got our next meeting coming up. Appreciate both of you. Appreciate the time. I think this is such an important discussion. I genuinely believe the discussion we had today was one of the most important ones we've had this year so far in Loeries Creative Hour, because it's about protecting our industry, protecting creativity, and ensuring that brave work thrives and gets forward. So thank you to the both of you. Jabulani, Sigege, Executive Creative Director at Wunderman, Thompson, Alex Goldberg, Creative Director at Ogilvy Cape Town. Before we leave, any parting words to everyone who's stuck around and who hasn't hopped into the next meeting? So you each have maybe we'll take a minute each and just your final parting thoughts as well. Jabulani?
Yeah, no, I think that with me, the final thing is just that, because we talk about brave work, but why should we do it? Why? And it might seem obvious, but it's actually not. It's like, because I think everybody thinks, oh, I'll let Alex do the brave work, or I'll let Preetesh do the brave work, we'll just keep the client happy. But the thing is that if we all think that somebody else will do it, no one will do it. So I think with that, it's always going, cool, let's push the boundaries. Let's take it further. Let's take it further than we did yesterday. Let's move it down the spectrum, but we do it for the right reasons, and we do it with the right people, and we do it the right way. And I think that's when brave work will be it'll be brave work versus controversial work. It'll be work with a purpose. And I know the word purpose is always bandied around. I'm sure you've heard it a lot as well, Alex. But yeah, it's like the bravery needs to have a purpose, and it doesn't need to be basically where we were just the advertising version of Jackass. Yeah.
Amazing. Good advice. Alex, from your side?
Yeah, I think that it's on that thing. I think in this landscape of purpose-driven work, I think there are so many little bits of change that can occur and needs to occur within each of the categories. I think it's about, first of all, yeah, exactly, pushing the envelope, but I think internally as well as externally. I think it's going if we're going to play on this whole spirit of we're storytellers, have we got the right people inside the building who come from different stories, have different voices, and then are we having those conversations with clients? Because that's the main thing. You're only as brave as the client, as brave as the bravest clients. And if you're not aligned, I think that's the biggest thing. I think for us, it's our job to just keep pushing them closer, like keep like driving them, keep presenting work that is brave the whole time, and slowly but surely, like you present one brave ad, it pays off, then their bravery is rewarded, and then the next time you build a foundation that's a little bit further, and you can keep going. And I think it's from everything. It's just like, it doesn't have to be one big campaign where suddenly they're like, that's where you're gonna, raise your sword. It can be anything. It can be from the way that you operate internally to like the smallest piece of communication. Like those little fights can be fought everywhere. And for us, it's like, it can be super disheartening when those complaints come. It actually, like, naturally you want to kind of pull into your shell and kind of just batten on the hatches and just hope it blows over. And then, maybe you don't push the boundary again. I think for us, it's like, if you do get burnt, just get back on the horse and just keep fighting, because we all want to make great work, and that takes great effort.
And I think just to that, Alex, you literally, when you said, it's those little fights, I see what you did there. You wanted to end off with the good fight. Yes, I see, Alex. And it is those little fights, those little battles. Even like you kind of get knocked down, you dust yourself off. We'll win the war eventually. And you are right. Like we always kind of feel disheartened after we've been kind of like stabbed to the ground. But yeah, it is literally fight the good fight. And we just got to keep doing that.
And I think just to add from my side, sometimes, our industry takes society to a place it needs to be, but may not feel it's ready to be at this moment in time, but we're taking it to where it needs to be. And I think that's the powerful job that we all have to do the work that we do every single day. So Alex and Jabulani, thank you for all the good work that the both of you are doing. And thanks to everyone who stayed in the call, and even to those who are going to be seeing this on demand later as well. And I think it's such great advice. Keep fighting the good fight. Don't let anything stop you, and keep pushing for the best work that we can actually create, because that's what's going to move society forward. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it so much. To everyone still on the call, thank you so much. Appreciate all of you. We've got a request for part 2, please. Maybe we'll get the ARB on it. Gentlemen, what do you think?
Yeah, that'd be awesome, actually. Let's do that.
There we go. I'll speak to Gail, see if she's keen. So amazing. Thank you to the both of you, and thanks to everyone. Have a good afternoon. And if you haven't got your Loeries entries in, also last reminder, 30th of June, don't forget to get that in. Thanks, everyone. Have a good afternoon. Talk soon. Hey, cheers.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Cheers.